What's going on, everybody? Toby Wayne from Toby Wayne Studios. So in the last video, I talked about my sculpting rakes and how much I love these. And unfortunately, in the middle of my sculpting, my rakes broke, both of them at the exact same time. I had my larger end guitar string rake snap, and I thought, okay, well, I'll just flip it around and use the smaller end. And as you can see, it completely bent and snapped as well. And the reason why is because when I stuck these in and then just clamped them, the metal must have been wearing through and weakened up these strings, these guitar strings. So it was time for me to go and get some new guitar string because, of course, I ran out of the other stuff and I couldn't find the original string. So I was like, I better just go and buy some new stuff. So with that being said, I'm going to make a new rake in this video, but I'm going to be doing it a little differently. I still have my brass tubing that I picked up from Hobby Lobby, and I want to say I think I got 3 large pieces of this brass tubing. I want to say for $3, so it's pretty cheap. This is the old one. I liked the length of this one. My advice would be that if to just get a piece of tubing that feels good in your hand for lengthwise. This one is about the same, and I want to say this is maybe 5-6 inches in length, just so you can have almost like a pencil. So. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a new sculpting rake using this brass tube. I went and picked up some guitar string tonight. This is 0.053 gauge. This is 32 gauge, and this is, I believe, 28. I could be reading that wrong. I'm not really sure, but it is really, really fine. This one's the larger one. And this is kind of the in-between, I believe. So I think I'm going to make the one sculpting end of this gauge, and I'll do the other end with the larger gauge, and then maybe I'll just make a separate one of the smaller one for fine-tune work. So what I'm going to do is, instead of pinching the steel or the guitar string into the brass tube, I am going to use the handy-dandy magic-sculpt resin to seal the ends. So let's get together here and get this happening. Here is the guitar string, the larger end, and what you want to do is unravel this and don't let this unwind really quick and smack you in the eye. That's not a good thing. Don't do that. Let's see if I can do that without looking like a total tool. You're going to need your brass tube, your guitar string, and these a pair of needle nose pliers. Any will do, I'm sure, as long as it has a snipping feature, which most needle nose pliers do. So then what I'm going to do is, to make sure that this doesn't, I guess, uncoil on me, I like to have a little bit of length for the amount of wire that's going to go in this tube, because you don't want to go so thin to the point where it won't. I like to go down, about this far into the tube. So I'm just going to go ahead and get a decent size amount, and I'm just gonna, I don't know, I'd say that's maybe 5 inches, 6 inches, something like that. And I'm just gonna snip that, and we can test to make sure that it's going to fit by just gently pinching this and then sliding that in. And I'm sure you can make different size loops, but in this case I'm going to just maybe make it about yay big. So it's a little wider, a little bit of a loop on the end. You can kind of bend it. You can use a tool to kind of wrap that around to kind of shape it to the way you want it. that's a pretty tight cable. See how it's wanting to pop around in there because it is wound. It's pinched pretty tight. So I think that's going to do pretty good. I guess what I could do is get some other wire and wrap around and seal that, but I don't think I'm going to worry too much about that. Or I guess you could super glue it if you wanted. So now that I've got that in there, I'm going to break open my magic-sculpt. And it's just equal parts, and you're not going to need very much because keep in mind you're doubling up the size. And of course I will be using the other end as well, so maybe I will just get a little bit more. That should be ample for side A. And we're going to get side B. Okay, so there I got equal parts. And I'm just going to start incorporating them together. Yeah, nothing sucks more than when your favorite tool and your sculpting bench, or as a 2D artist, if your pencils or markers run out, when your favorite tool takes a dump on you, that's the worst. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that this is kneaded really, really well together. And what I'm going to do is that's how I've got it going in. So I'm going to just kind of roll out little snakes. And I'm just going to gently start to press it in so that the wire and the magic-sculpt will go in and lock to each other, because that guitar wire, of course, is going to work in our favor because it's got all those nice little grooves on it. So I'm just going to pack that in nice and tight in there to make sure that all that clay is getting, that epoxy is getting pushed in there. And you're going to find that this magic-sculpt is amazing. This stuff is, I mean, cure's rock solid. There's no way around that. This thing is going to be definitely locked in place. I don't think this is going to be as damaged as quickly as the other version where it's pinched, because this stuff is holding it in place via the magic-sculpt. So, and just to kind of work on this a little bit, I'm going to just kind of start shaping a little bit over the edges here so that it gets a really nice sealed end, and it kind of protects the outside edges of that wire as well. And technically I could really I could do a nice build up around this edge too, just to really make sure that this thing is smooth and sealed. And I'll probably off camera, because I don't have any water out here right now, but I'll probably go and take some water and smooth that out just to make sure that it's nice and protected and smooth. There's no rough edges. And also, this magic-sculpt is going to really hold this wire in place, because it is going to be supporting up around these edges. So I'm going to just go ahead and do a nice job of smoothing and blending and sealing and protecting. You can get as fancy as you want, but I'm just going to go ahead and make this quick makeshift one. All right. And then once this fully cures, then I can go back and kind of tweak and finesse that, because I have it's off just a little bit, but from when I bent it, so it'll cure, it'll bend itself back out, I'm sure. But all right, so this end is done. We are going to want to be very careful with this end until it cures. And now let's go ahead and grab the middle gauged wire, which I believe is this 32, and I'm going to carefully pull off a little piece here. Be very careful. And I'm going to just snip the end of that. And I'm going to also make sure that I put this guitar string away, so that if something else should happen with my sculpting rake, or if I need to make some more, or I'm thinking I might even make up a handful of them and just sell them on my website for, you know, $5, whatever. If anybody's interested, please let me know in the comment section below. So I'm going to go ahead and just gently press this end, and I'm going to feed it into this tube. So it makes the other end now. So now we've got two ends going, a thicker gauge and the thinner gauge. And this brass tube, from when I was working, cutting it off and all that good stuff, it did leave some rough edges, but our handy dandy epoxy is going to fix that. So we're not going to have to worry about that, because our epoxy is going to make a nice smooth edge. And I'm not kidding, when this stuff cures, you will be able to take sandpaper to it and sand it down if you're in the notion to do so. And I might do that when I make a handful of these, just for fun, and put up on the website. I might finesse and fine-tune and see how this works, see how well this works, and then I'll... oh, one thing I do want to mention, though, is you are going to want to try to line them up so that both lines are parallel with each other. Does that make sense? So this is this way and that is that way, so you're not twisted one end or the other. It's just easier when you're, when you're sculpting on something and then you flip it around and it's the same direction. So something to think about. And you can also tighten this loop up, which would eliminate some of the wear and tear on those edges. But this is going to be a test on the pattern, or the test on this one here, to see how well this epoxy magic-sculpt works. So I guess I'll just test it and finesse it, and then maybe I'll see how it works and how well it holds up, and then I'll make a couple and put them on the website if anybody's interested. If you artists out there, you future sculptors or sculptors that are seasoned or advanced, if you'd like a tool, let me know. Plus, the nice thing too is this epoxy adds a little bit of weight, so that's cool. Not so much to the point where it's heavy, but it does have a little bit of weight to it now, which is nice. So I'm just really making sure I press all that epoxy in there as far as it'll go. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and, just like this end, I'm going to come back over and smooth this up, making sure that all the edges and stuff are protected and sealed. It kind of locks it in place. Yeah, looking better. And I'm going to just protect that end a little bit more. Yeah, that should be good. All right. And technically, if I wanted to get super crazy, I have as you can see, I have a lot of this material left over. Uh, you know, I could coat the whole thing in it, which is excessive, but I'm an excessive kind of guy. So, but anyway, yeah, this is my new sculpting rake, and I think it's going to be a success. Of course, that's what I thought about the last one I made. But the good news is I did go back and reinforce these edges with this epoxy sculpt, and I am very serious when I say this stuff becomes rock hard, and I don't think the ends are going to become as damaged. Or I could even, you know, sculpt up even further up to really lock and protect those on. I might do that too. I'm not sure. These are just experimental tools for me right now to test to see what works, what doesn't work. And then I'll maybe start producing some of these and put them up for sale. So anyway, I just wanted everybody to see this video today. I hope that this helps motivate and inspire some people out there to push some clay around and be creative and get out there and be artistic. And yeah, so anyway, thank you guys for checking this video out. Again, I have seen a large flux of subscribers to the channel, so thank you very much for that. I appreciate it big time. It keeps me motivated to keep producing content. And yeah, so anyway, you guys are awesome. Thank you for checking this video out. And as usual, I will catch you in the very next video.